show you how to make these little earrings that I'm calling triangle dangles. They use 6mm 2-hole triangle beads, check triangle beads. And they're just as pretty on the back as they are on the front, so they could be considered reversible. If you like one side better than the other, then you can put your ear wire that way. However, I like to have the little triangles kind of sticking out. Now, these little components that we're making for the earrings can be used in other things too. But today, we're going to use them, of course, for earrings. So what you're going to need for this project today, I'm going to make a little bit different color. So we are going to use Jet Peacock 6mm 2-hole triangle check beads here. And you will need 24 of those. I'm also going to use a clear druck. I'm going to use a 6mm and a 4mm. Now you can use any rounds that you want. They can be pearls, they can be crystals, whatever. It doesn't matter as long as one is 6mm and one is 4mm. And for the 6mm you'll need 8 of them for 2 earrings. And for the 4mm round, you will need 12 for 2 earrings. You will also need a 6/0 seed bead. This is a check today that I'm using, and this one I used a Toho. And these check ones aren't quite as consistent in shape and size, so I just picked out 8 of them that were as close as possible to each other as I could come, and that should work fine. So you will need 8 for 2 earrings of your 6/0 seed bead. You will also need an 11/0 seed bead. They're out of frame. And I'm using a Toho 11/0, and this is a galvanized permanent finish silver. You will also need 2 ear wires and a beading needle. I'm using a size 10 English beading needle, and you will need Fireline. I am using 8-pound Fireline. 6 will work fine too. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take your 12 per earring. You'll need 12. So take your 12 little triangle beads and lay them out with the tip pointing away from you and the holes toward you, because you will need to make sure that you pick up the same hole as you pick up your beads, and this is the easiest way to organize that. Thread onto your needle about an arm length of Fireline, and then start by picking up in the left hole. You're going to pick up 4 of your triangle beads. Make sure you're picking up the left hole. Once you have your 4 triangle beads, then you're going to bring them down to the end of your Fireline. Just leave enough to tie a knot. Untie them and pull them into a little circle, and tie them again. Pull them very tight. Then hold them with the points up. And then sew through the same hole that your thread is going through all the way around. And once you get around all the way, then pick up an 11/0 seed bead and go back through the next inner hole, the same holes we've been working in, and pull your thread through tight. And then turn your little piece of work, pick up another one, little 11/0, and go into the same hole we've been working in on the next bead. And then turn. And we're just going to put an 11/0 between each bead here. Just like this. Once you get around the entire thing, have your little tail out of the way, and go through the 11-0 again and your little triangle bead. It can be kind of hard to see the hole in the triangle, but you just want to go through the 11-0 and the triangle and not the 11-0 on the other side, just like this, and pull your thread through. Then you're going to go into the top hole of the triangle bead you're coming out of and pull. Make sure your tension is good on this, that your beads aren't floppy. You want everything to be tight. Now we're going to go back to our triangle beads, and I just messed them all up. That's nice. Okay, and we're going to pick up 2, but this time we're going to pick them up in the right hole. So instead of picking up in the left hole, we're going to make sure we pick up 2 in the right hole. And then we're coming from this bead in the top hole, we're going to go into the next bead in the top hole. And we're going to pull our 2 triangles into the slot between the 2 beads. They want to get a little tangly, so just straighten them up. And that's what that should look like. Get a little closer. And then pick up 2 more in the right hole and go into the next triangle bead in the second hole of it. Turn your work, pick up 2 more in the right hole and go into the next triangle bead. Turn your work, pick up 2 more in the right hand hole and go into the triangle bead and the 2 that you added first of all between the beads. So you're going to go through 3 beads right here and pull. Now it's kind of loose, so I'm going to go through this next bead and the second 2 I added between the beads right here and pull. I'm going to do that one more time. Go into the next 3 beads and pull. Just tightening everything up. We're just sewing around the entire unit. Go into the next 3 beads again and pull. And one more time. Go into the next 3 beads and pull. Now we're going to go into the next bead, just the next bead, the shorter one, the one that's not sticking out as far, and just into it. Actually, into it and the next one. So we're going to go in between 2 beads here. Excuse me. The short one and the first one of the units we just added, or the beads we just added. Now we're going to put a seed bead in between the ones we just added. So we'll pick up an 11-0 and then we'll travel through 3 beads so that we are just working between the beads we just added and putting an 11-0 seed bead between them and pull. Now we are going to add another 11-0 seed bead because we're between 2 beads that we added in our last step, and we're going to travel through 3 beads so that we're into the next segment where 2 beads that we added in our last step are. So we're passing through 3 beads and then going into the beginning of the next 2 in our last step. And then again, we're going to add another one and pass through 3 beads. Just like this. And then we're going to add another seed bead because we're between the 2 from our previous step, and we are going to pass through 3 beads. And pull our little seed bead down between the 2. So this is what you will have. Whoops. Drop it. So all we have done is added a seed bead between the 2 triangles that we added in our second step. Now we're going to go through the triangle, or I'm sorry, we're going to go through the 11-0 that we just added, and we're going to pass through the next 3 beads, triangle beads. And now we are in the little bead here. We're going to hop up right before our next 11-0 seed bead, the triangle we should be in. We're going to hop up into the top hole of that triangle bead. And we're going to pick up a 6mm round. And we're going to go into the next triangle. So we're changing direction with our thread. And we're going to pull it tight in between those 2 beads. Now we're going to pick up a 6-0 seed bead. And we're going to add it right in front of the little 11-0, go into the next triangle. So your 6-0 or your 6mm drucks or rounds should be placed in front of the short triangles, and your 6-0 seed beads should be placed in front of the little 11-0s we added between our triangles. So now we are going to add another 6mm round between the triangles. And then we're going to add a little, because we're by the seed bead here, we're going to add a 6mm or a 6-0 seed bead. And then go into the next triangle. And again, where the short triangles are, so we're going to pick up a 6mm round and pull. Plant them nice and tight between those 2 little triangle beads. Pick up your 6-0, because now we're where there is a seed bead, so we're going to use a 6-0 between the 2 triangles. And we're going to pull our triangles together tight around the 6-0. And again, we are in front of a little short triangle, so we're going to pick up a 6mm round, and we're going to pull it into place between the triangles. And one more time with the 6-0 seed bead, because we are in where our little 11-0 seed bead is. So we're just going to try to come up through the triangle here. This is a little difficult right here to get your needle through. It can be done. It just takes a little bit of manipulation here. Once you get it through, pull tight, just like that. And that's what you should have. And your little seed beads kind of sink down into the triangles and they just stick up. Okay, now we're going to go into the 6mm round, and we're going to pick up 3 little 11-0 seed beads. And we're going to go from the 6mm round to the 6-0 seed bead and just pull these into a little triangle. And then move to our next one. Pick up 3 11-0 seed beads and go into the next bead. And again, we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, and we're just going to do this all the way around the entire piece. When you get to the last one, pick up your 3 11-0s. And as you pass through the 6mm round, make sure that you also climb up the 2 next 11-0 seed beads, because it's difficult to get back into them if you don't climb through them at this stage. And now we're going to add a bead between the 11-0 seed beads here. This time we're going to use a 4mm round. So we're going to pick up an 11-0, a 4mm round, and an 11-0, and we're going to pass from peak to peak here. It's also better if you can slide through your next 11-0 seed bead and up through at least the seed bead right behind your 6mm bead. It just is easier to get between the beads that way. Then go up into the point of your 11-0s. Pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a 3mm round, and an 11-0 seed bead. And again, come up through the very top, and the next one, and the 6mm round, and the next 11-0 seed bead. Then up through the next 11-0. And we're just going to work all the way around, picking up 11-0, a 4mm round, and an 11-0. Go into the next very middle 11-0 seed bead, into the 6mm round, and the 11-0 on the other side. Then up into the 11-0. And we're just going to work all the way around the piece doing this. The very last one is always the most difficult one. If you can make it all the way through all the next 11-0s, it's easier. Just like that. And this is what your little component will look like. After we have finished our component, we will now go up into the little 4mm round that we're right next to, where our thread is next to. And we will pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a 4mm round, 3 11-0 seed beads, a 4mm round, and an 11-0 seed bead. And we will come back into the opposite side our thread is exiting in this little 4mm round here. Then we will sew up. We're coming out here. We're going to sew up into the little 11-0, the 4mm round, and pull it tight. Then we're just going to sew into the 11-0, the first 2 11-0s right here. And so now we're exiting the middle 11-0. After exiting the little top 11-0 here, we are going to pick up another 11-0. Then we're going to pick up our ear wire, and we want to make sure our ear wire is going to be the proper way. You want it to be facing down towards the table where the hook is going to be facing down. So pick up your 11-0, pick up your ear wire, and then pick up another 11-0. And then you're going to come back through the little 11-0 that you're exiting on the opposite side here. And pull. Now you want your 11-0s to be the 2 that you just added to be on either side of the ear wire. So arrange it so that that's how it lies, and then go back through the beads you just added. Go up through the 11-0, through the ear wire, down through the 11-0 on the other side, and back through the 11-0 that you started in. And sew around that about 3 times. Make sure your ear wire is closed tight. You know how they're open in the bottom, because your thread can slip through if it's not closed tight. So make sure you close it tight. Now I've sewn through it twice. It's probably best to sew it through it one more time, but I'm not going to right now just for time's sake. And I'm going to sew back down into my little beads that I added on this side here, right next to the little 11-0 I'm exiting. I'm going to sew back down through these beads. I'm going to sew into the bead, the main bead on my unit here. And then I'm going to sew down into my work, come out of my little bead on the side here. I'm going to tie a little slip knot. Between the beads, just like that. Then I'm going to sew back up through my work. And you can do this several times. You can sew around and tie off several times. I'm just going to sew through and make another knot here if I can. And then sew back through these little 11-0s. And then I'm going to cut off my thread. Now with your tail, you can either put your needle back on and sew it through a couple of times if you'd like, or you can just cut it off. I haven't found that it slips too badly that my beads fall apart if you just cut it off, so I'm going to do that right now. I also like to, when I have a little tail sticking up like this, I like to use a little lighter and just very lightly singe the edge of that keeps it from falling apart. But I don't have one right now. Anyway, this is what your little earring will look like when you're all finished. See? And they hang perfectly. And like I said, they're just as pretty on the back as they are on the front. And that's how you make the triangle dangles. I hope you enjoyed this and have a good day. Bye-bye.